the Deputy Head of Public Service and Coordinator of Multi-Agency Enforcement, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Trade and Enterprise Development, represented by Dr. Bruno Linyiro, the Chairperson, Board of Directors, Anti-Counterfeit Authority, Ms. Flora Mutahi, Deputy County Commissioner Kiambi Kimathi, Team Mayor, Country Director, Representative Mr. Eric Sirare, Board members of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, I would like to thank you all for honoring our invitation to attend to this year's World Anti-Counterfeit Day. The World Anti-Counterfeit Day is globally commemorated to raise awareness of the negative impact that the counterfeit goods have on our health, safety, and to national security. The recent COVID-19 crisis has led to a surge of counterfeit and substandard products in Kenya today. Recent reports from our National Baseline Survey, which was launched in 2020, indicate that the total value of illicit trade was 726 billion in 2017, and it had grown by 100 billion in the year 2018, which was a rise of 14%. Counterfeit products account for nearly 70% of all imports into Kenya. In Kenya, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority is a state corporation that leads in the role in organizing this event in conjunction with other government agencies. This is the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, KIPI, and the Kenya Copyright Board, KIKOBO. We also collaborate with other sector players, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, among other players. Last week, we were in Machakos County, where we held 2 stakeholder forums, which were to drum up the event to this event today. It was involving the Machakos County officials, the national government officers, and the business community at large. This year's theme is on leveraging on technology to combat counterfeiting. This goes with our planned launch of the Intellectual Property Recordation System for imports into Kenya. This technology will be a game changer in the war against counterfeits, which will involve creation of intellectual property rights database that will be used by officers at border points so that they are easily able to flag counterfeits before entering into the market. Ladies and gentlemen, ACA has put in place other mechanisms to deal with this menace. One of them is automation of the enforcement processes, which will enhance efficiency of handling and processing formal complaints. Decentralization of ACA operations by having presence in all ports of entries, and collaborating with private sector and other government agencies on intelligence sharing. We will also look at compounding of offenses to ensure quick resolution to IPR disputes which arise from time to time. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate Trademark East Africa through the country director, Mr. Ahmed Farah, for the support offered in undertaking the National Baseline Survey on counterfeit and illicit trade, development of the National Observatory, and the Anti-Counterfeit Integrated Management System. We appreciate our chief guest, Mr. Wanyama Musiambo, the Deputy Head of Public Service and Coordinator of the Multi-Agency Collaboration Against Illicit Trade, for being with us today. And on behalf of management and staff of the authority, we commit to be at the forefront of the implementation of the National Anti-Illicit Action Plan. And I call upon all state agencies and private sector to strengthen their role in this regard. Thank you very much, and karibuni tena to this event.
In this fight against illicit trade, fighting counterfeits, we have been very, very aggressive, particularly since the year 2018, when none other than His Excellency the President directed that for us to be able to achieve the envisaged for manufacturing to get to 15% GDP by the year 2022, we had to address the issue of illicit trade much more aggressively than hitherto. And from that time, the Executive Office of the President acknowledges the importance of the World Anti-Counterfeiting Day to inform about the reality and the consequences of trade in counterfeiting. We recognize this day because counterfeiting and illicit trade is a matter of public interest and public concern, since it has multifaceted effects on each one of us, on every individual, every organizations, and even governments all over the world. Kenya's development priority areas and preparedness include that Kenya, like any other economy, is facing the wrath of counterfeiting and illicit trade. We cannot have economic development and growth unless we put up structures that support economic development, that support industrial development through manufacturing. To accelerate economic development, the government has prioritized the manufacturing sector under the Big Four agenda framework of development, targeting to have the sector's contribution to GDP rise from 8% year 2017 to 15% year 2022. As a government, the legal basis for protecting intellectual rights holders and legitimate trade is founded in the following areas. One is the Constitution. Two, international agreements that the government has signed, statutes, the common law, and the government policy. The Kenyan Constitution, under Section 45, obliges the government to protect and enforce intellectual property rights. In addition, we have a number of other legal instruments to combat counterfeiting. In order to tighten the policy around intellectual property enforcement, the Cabinet approved the Intellectual Property Bill 2020 that looks forward to the combination of the parallel intellectual property related acts and calls for merger of all the intellectual property related agencies that are namely the Kenya Copyright Board, KECOB, the Kenya Intellectual Property Institute, KIPI, and the Anti-Counterfeiting Authority, SCA, so as to form one Intellectual Property Office of Kenya, IPOC. Together with this, Kenya is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization and the World Trade Organization, and is a signatory to various agreements and treaties, and several other major international and regional intellectual property conventions, like the African Regional Industrial Property Organization. These memberships indicate the commitment of the government towards protection of intellectual property rights. Today, 4 years ago, His Excellency the President directed the formation of a multi-agency task force to combat illicit trade that was embedded later on in a national action plan against illicit trade. The action plan was to address the challenges faced by the manufacturing sector and the genuine traders due to illicit trade, and furthermore, substandard goods posed health and safety risks to our consumers, and very importantly, the loss of government revenue as a result of tax evasion. Multi-agency team managed to seize goods worth over 3.0 billion and the confiscated goods worth over 13.3 billion. Today, going by this year's theme, leveraging technology in the fight against counterfeit trade, The intellectual property rights recordation aims to prevent counterfeit imports by developing an IPR database for goods to be imported into the country and using that database to be able to check imports for counterfeit goods. It is worth noting that Kenya is the second country in Africa to adopt the IPR recordation after the Republic of Africa, which administers recordation through their Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. The aim of the property right recordation include to prevent counterfeit imports, and that is the key issue, into Kenya. And this will translate into proactive protection of health and the safety of the consumers. Number two, the IPR owners will be protected from unfair competition from counterfeit imports. Traders and importers will have a platform to confirm the genuineness of goods prior to importation, and this will in turn cushion them from law enforcement consequences such as seizures and prosecutions. The Anti-Counterfeit Authority remains committed to protecting the public from harmful counterfeit products and goods. SCA continues to enlighten the public on the dangers of counterfeit goods through sensitization and training forums. Therefore, I want to assure you that the Kenya government is fully committed and has remained steadfast in providing an enabling business environment for the realization of economic growth and economic development.